Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into a huge question that sits at the very heart of every single business. Who does a company really work for? And let me tell you, the answer isn't as simple as the owner. It's this wild, complicated balancing act, and we're going to break it all down. Let's do it.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, let's kick things off with a simple choice, something a local business might face any day. It might seem small, but you'll see how the effects can spread out, just like ripples in a pond. All right, here's the scenario. Picture your favorite local coffee spot. Now imagine they're thinking about getting rid of the baristas and bringing in fully automated coffee machines. I mean, on the surface, it's a pretty simple business move, right? But just take a second. Who actually cares if this happens?
Well, it turns out a ton of people care. And I mean a ton. You've got the employees, right? They're thinking, am I going to have a job next week? The manager. They're looking at their spreadsheets, trying to hit those efficiency targets. The shareholders, the owners, they're just focused on that bottom line, profit. And what about you, the customer? You're wondering if your latte is going to taste the same, or maybe get a little cheaper. Even the folks who supply the coffee beans and the paper cups are suddenly worried. And of course, the whole local community feels it when jobs are on the line. One little decision creates this massive interconnected web.
So you see this huge web of people? Well, in the business world, there's one single, super powerful word that wraps all of them up. It's the key that unlocks how companies really think about all these different groups. And that word is stakeholder. Now look, a stakeholder isn't just someone who owns stock in the company. Nope, it's literally anyone who has an interest, a stake, in what a company does. They can influence the company, or the company's actions can end up influencing them. And getting this concept is absolutely crucial, because if you're a manager and you ignore the needs of a key stakeholder, you could be in for a world of hurt. Right, so you've got all these stakeholders, all wanting different things. It sounds like total chaos, doesn't it? Well, to make any sense of it, we can start by sorting them into three big categories, or circles, all based on how close they are to the company. So we break them down into three main buckets: internal, connected, and external. Internal stakeholders are pretty straightforward. They're the people on the inside, the ones running the day-to-day operations. Connected stakeholders aren't employees, but they have some kind of formal business deal, usually involving money. And then you have the external stakeholders. They're the wider world. No contract, but they can still have a massive impact. Let's dig into each one. Okay, first up, let's talk about the internal crew. These are the people inside the building, the insiders. You've got your employees, whose needs are very direct. They want fair pay, they want to know their job is safe, and they want a decent place to work. Then you have the managers and directors. Their focus is a bit different. They're thinking about their status, their performance bonuses, and hitting those big company-wide goals. All right, next up are the connected stakeholders. Think of these as the company's direct business partners. You've got shareholders who own a slice of the pie and want to see their investment grow. You have customers who hand over their cash expecting good value and quality. There are the suppliers who provide all the raw materials and, expect to get paid for them on time. And of course, the lenders, like banks, who provide the loans and really want to be paid back. And that brings us to our third group, the external stakeholders. These guys don't have a direct contract, but don't let that fool you. Their influence can be absolutely massive. The government is a big one. It cares about getting its tax revenue, making sure people have jobs, and that the company is playing by the rules. The local community is worried about things like pollution or traffic. You've got pressure groups like environmental watchdogs keeping a close eye on things. And trade unions are there to make sure employees have a powerful collective voice. Okay, so we've got our three groups, right? Each with their own wish list. Now this is where it gets really juicy. What happens when these needs collide? Because let me tell you, they almost always do. This is pretty much the central drama of running any business. Let's start with the classic, the ultimate tug-of-war, employees versus managers. Your employees, of course, they want better pay, better benefits. I mean, who wouldn't? That's their livelihood. But the managers? Many of them have bonuses tied to profit, so their whole game is about keeping costs down. And what's one of the biggest costs for any company? Payroll. You can see the built-in tension right there. And here's another classic showdown: customers versus shareholders. As a customer, what do you want? The best possible thing for the lowest possible price. Simple. But what do shareholders want? The biggest possible profit. And how do you get bigger profits? Well, you can raise your prices, or you can cut your costs, which might mean using cheaper materials or lowering quality. You see the problem? And this tug of war isn't just inside the company. It spills out into the wider world.
The local community might want the company to invest in expensive new filters to reduce pollution. But things like that cost a lot of money, which cuts directly into the profits the shareholders are counting on. So this is the million-dollar question, right? With all these groups pulling in opposite directions, how on earth does a manager decide who to listen to? Because look, with everyone demanding something different, a manager just can't make everybody happy. It's impossible. Time, money, resources, they're all limited. So they need a tool, a game plan. They need a clear way to figure out whose needs to prioritize in any given situation. And one of the absolute best tools for the job is something called Mendelow's Power Interest Matrix. Yeah, I know, it sounds a little academic, but stick with me, because the idea behind it is actually super simple and incredibly useful for mapping out all these competing demands. So here's how it works. It's basically a simple grid built on two key questions. Along one side, you have power. How much muscle does the stakeholder have to really influence what the company does? And along the other side, you have interest. How much do they actually care about this specific decision? When you plot your stakeholders on this grid, you get 4 boxes, and each box tells you exactly what to do. Okay, let's dive into the 4 boxes, starting with the most important one, the top right, your key players. These are the folks with a ton of power and a ton of interest. They can make or break your project, and they care deeply about it. The strategy here is simple. You have to treat them like partners. You work with them, you listen to them, because keeping them on your side is absolutely essential. Now, let's slide over to the top left, the Keep Satisfied group. These stakeholders are powerful, but right now they're not that interested in what you're doing. You can't ignore them because they have power, but they don't need to be in every meeting. The real game here is to keep them happy enough so they don't become super interested and jump over into that key player box. You're basically managing their attention. Down in the bottom right, you've got the Keep Informed crowd. These groups are very interested, they care a lot, but they don't have much power on their own. The right strategy is to keep them in the loop with newsletters or updates. Why? Because if you ignore them, they might try to gain power by getting organized or talking to the media, trying to get the attention of your key players. And last but not least, the bottom left corner, minimal effort. Look, a manager's time is precious. This group has low power, and they don't really care that much about this particular decision. You should still keep an eye on them, just in case things change, but you don't need to spend a lot of energy here. All right, so that's the theory. But a tool is only as good as its application, right? So let's see how this thing actually works in the real world with a quick case study. Let's make this matrix come to life. So, meet Chop Ltd. They're thinking about layoffs to boost profits. Let's map their stakeholders. First, the major shareholders who are demanding higher returns. They have high power and high interest. They're the key players. Then there's the government. They have high power, but they're not too interested as long as laws are followed, so they go in the Keep Satisfied box. What about the employees? Their jobs are on the line, so they have high interest, but as a group, they have low power. They need to be kept informed. And the customers? They have low interest and low individual power, so they land in minimal effort. You see that? Instantly, you have a clear strategy for how to handle each group. And really, that's the core idea I want you to walk away with. Running a business isn't about some magical formula that makes everyone happy. That's a fantasy. It's this constant, ongoing dance of strategic compromise. It's about using tools like this matrix to skillfully balance the competing needs of everyone who has a stake in what you do. So I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. In the past, maybe you could get away with putting stakeholders like the environment or society in the minimal effort box. But today, with growing awareness around climate change and social justice, their power to influence companies is skyrocketing. So does this mean they should now, by default, always be treated as key players in every single business decision? It's a huge question. Thanks for listening.